Welcome to Trending Update USA, and I am Steffan, bringing you a deep, comprehensive, and fully detailed breakdown of one of the most compelling narratives emerging from the WTA circuit today, Aryna Sabalenka making her feelings unmistakably clear about her opponent after defeating her to secure the astonishing $5.2 million prize. In a season defined by seismic shifts, relentless competition, psychological battles, and a constant tug-of-war between rising stars and established champions, Aryna Sabalenka has once again positioned herself at the center of tennis discourse. Her latest triumph, culminating with the massive $5.2 million payday, is not just another championship moment. It has quickly evolved into a headline-dominating story because of what she said after the match, how she said it, and what those words truly revealed about her mindset, her rivalry, and the opponent she faced on one of the biggest stages of the year. The tennis world has witnessed rivalry after rivalry, each with its layers of tension, respect, aggression, and sportsmanship. Yet few rivalries today contain the emotional voltage that Sabalenka brings every single time she steps onto the court, especially when the stakes are as monumental as they were in this championship match. As fans around the world tuned in expecting explosive tennis, they were treated to something even bigger. A moment that gives us rare insight into Sabalenka's competitive DNA. From the very beginning of the event, Sabalenka projected a sense of purpose that signaled she was not there merely to participate. She was there to claim a statement victory. Her powerful baseline hitting, controlled aggression, and high-tempo footwork put her in a zone that made it evident she had locked into what players often refer to as tunnel mode. But what makes this story compelling is not only the level of tennis she produced, but also the emotional tension surrounding her and her opponent, who has been both a rival and a reference point throughout her career. Throughout the match, the energy between the two players was palpable. Every rally seemed charged with an extra layer of competitiveness, like each point was not just a point but a message. When Sabalenka unleashed her trademark ferocious forehands, the crowd responded with equal intensity, recognizing that she was not just hitting winners, she was making a statement of authority. But the opponent responded with her own pushback, refusing to allow the match to morph into a dominant beatdown. Instead, what unfolded was a high-stakes duel, a tactical and emotional chess match, a display of elite-level athletic psychology. The pressure mounted as the match progressed. The opponent, who has had her own share of breakthroughs this season, attempted to disrupt Sabalenka's rhythm through defensive absorption, angle creation, and extended rallies aimed at provoking errors. However, the Belarusian refused to crack. In fact, it was precisely in those moments where Sabalenka's grinding style, often underestimated behind her power, proved invaluable. She chased down balls that most players would have let go, pivoting from defense to offense within the same rally, a skill she has refined significantly over the past 2 seasons. Once Sabalenka secured the final match point, dropped her racket, and let out a visceral roar that echoed throughout the arena, the tennis world anticipated a post-match statement. But what few expected was the clarity and emotional sharpness with which she addressed her opponent afterward. There was no sugarcoating, no diplomatic vagueness, no evasive athlete clichés. Instead, Sabalenka spoke with precision, honesty, and intensity, making it undeniably clear how she felt about facing this opponent and what the rivalry meant to her. She acknowledged her opponent's level, praising her competitiveness and resilience. Yet she also made it unmistakably clear that this was personal for her, not in a negative way, but in a deeply competitive, psychological sense. Sabalenka noted that beating this opponent carries a unique significance because of their contrasting styles, histories, and previous encounters. She admitted that matches against her push her to a mental threshold few players can reach. And although she offered respect, she also articulated that stepping on the court against this opponent ignites a fire in her, a heightened version of herself that she believes brings out her best tennis. What makes Sabalenka's comments particularly remarkable is the balance she managed to strike. She expressed respect yet reaffirmed her dominance. She acknowledged tension but refused to downplay her competitive instincts. She demonstrated emotional transparency while reinforcing the psychological edge she holds and wants to maintain over her opponent. This combination created an instant viral moment, as fans, analysts, and even former champions began dissecting the implications. One of the most striking aspects of Sabalenka's post-match reflection was her emphasis on mental load. She admitted that facing this opponent demands not only physical endurance, but also extreme mental clarity. By openly acknowledging this challenge, she elevated the narrative, transforming the match from a simple result to a broader exploration of athletic rivalry. Her comments suggested that this opponent represents a benchmark for her, a person who forces her to engage in that rare form of performance where she must synchronize raw power with tactical finesse. What followed was a wave of commentary across social media platforms. Fans praised Sabalenka for her honesty, claiming that her statement captured the authentic essence of elite sports, where respect and rivalry coexist. Tennis analysts quickly drew comparisons to legendary rivalries of previous eras, noting that Sabalenka's transparency brings refreshing energy to the modern WTA landscape. Some argued that the comments were a psychological tactic, a way of reaffirming her mental superiority, especially coming off such a significant financial and competitive victory. Others suggested that this was the natural evolution of an athlete who is no longer willing to conceal the emotional complexities of competing at the sport's highest tier. Meanwhile, the opponent's fans interpreted the comments through a different lens. Many felt that Sabalenka's remarks, although respectful, contained an implicit message that this rivalry is defined on her terms, that she views herself as the superior competitor in the moments that matter most. This interpretation only amplified the discussion, as debates over tone, intention, and psychological impact emerged across fan communities. Looking at the larger picture, Sabalenka's victory and her subsequent remarks illustrate a broader trend in modern tennis: the emergence of openly emotionally driven narratives. Unlike athletes of previous decades who often adhered to scripted diplomacy, today's players are increasingly transparent about their emotional journeys. Sabalenka is part of that movement. Her intensity is not an act, it's part of her identity. And in an era where audiences crave authenticity, her unfiltered comments resonate strongly. Her win also reinforces her position as one of the highest-earning athletes of the year. The financial magnitude of the $5.2 million prize highlights the economic evolution of the sport and the increasing visibility of women's tennis worldwide. Sabalenka, through both her performance and her personality, is helping push the sport into a new global spotlight. Throughout the broadcast and post-match analysis, commentators described Sabalenka as a force of nature, a phrase that carries significant weight. It reflects both her physical playing style and her emotional presence. She does not merely participate in a match, she consumes its energy, reshapes its tempo, and imposes her own intensity onto every point. That is a rare trait, one that elevates her above many of her peers. Her remarks also open the door to the next chapter of this rivalry. If anything, she has amplified the anticipation for their upcoming encounter. The opponent, known for her own competitive spirit, will undoubtedly respond in her own way, whether through her next press conference or her next performance. High-stakes matches between the two will now carry additional weight, fueled not only by the competitive history but also by Sabalenka's unflinching comments after this monumental victory. The tennis calendar still holds several major events, and if both players continue their current trajectories, it is all but certain they will cross paths again. When that happens, the media will revisit these comments, the emotional intensity will escalate, and fans will tune in with heightened expectations. Sabalenka's victory was not just a championship moment, it was a narrative catalyst. In the broader scope of women's tennis, this storyline enriches the sport's ongoing evolution. Rivalries are essential for audience engagement, fan identity, and market growth. Clear narratives drive viewership, and emotionally charged rivalries create long-lasting memories. Whether consciously or subconsciously, Sabalenka's remarks have added fuel to one of the most captivating rivalries in the modern WTA landscape. As we look toward the next events on the schedule, Sabalenka's trajectory appears poised for continued dominance. Her physical conditioning is at an elite level. Her confidence is soaring following a lucrative and significant victory. And her mental game, often cited as her Achilles heel earlier in her career, now stands as one of her primary weapons. Her relationship with pressure has transformed. She thrives in it. She embraces it. It adds weight to her shots, purpose to her movement, and clarity to her strategy. Whether she faces this opponent again or another rising contender, Sabalenka has made it unambiguously clear that she is operating with a sharpened mindset. By the time she walked off the court, trophy in hand, her comments circulating globally, and her smile reflecting both relief and satisfaction, it became evident that this was not merely another day at the office. This was a defining display of competitive spirit. A reminder of why Sabalenka remains one of the marquee figures in contemporary tennis. And a preview of the emotional storylines that will continue shaping the sport for years to come. For fans of tennis, this is a gift, a rivalry with layers, emotions, unpredictable twists, and the kind of honesty that deepens engagement. For Sabalenka, it is another data point in her ascent. For her opponent, it is both a challenge and an opportunity. And for the sport as a whole, it is a moment that reinforces why tennis remains one of the most psychologically fascinating arenas in the world. As we conclude this extensive coverage of Aryna Sabalenka's latest triumph and her unmistakably clear message to her opponent after claiming the massive $5.2 million prize, the story remains open-ended, dynamic, and independent of a single match result. Because in tennis, the narrative is always moving forward, and this rivalry is far from finished. This is Trending Update USA, and I am Steffan.